gonna shoot it in her mouth? Ooh, shoot it in her mouth. Open your mouth, Mercedes. Let Monica shoot it in there. Ooh. Ooh. Did you swallow? Did you swallow?
Monica, tell me why your mouth open while her mouth open.
And look what kind of toilet paper you got.
We're gonna go off right here.
Look like toilet paper.
This is Janae Gagnier, a 33-year-old social media sensation who commanded the attention of 2.6 million Instagram followers under the name Miss Mercedes Moore. But on August 29, 2021, in a gated apartment complex in Richmond, Texas, that was supposed to provide safety and security, her father, Mark Gagnier, would kick down a door and discover a scene so horrifying that it would haunt him for the rest of his life. His daughter's lifeless body lay before him, and upstairs, a stranger from Florida, a man Janae never met, never spoken to, never even knew existed, was in his final moments of life, having taken everything from this family in an act of delusional obsession. But before we uncover the chilling details of what happened inside that apartment, let me take you back to understand who Janae Gagnier really was, and how the very fame that made her a star may have painted a target on her back that she never saw coming.
She just was so happy and so funny and just so loving, and she just loved to
Right, it
joke
would be all
around.
about her.
Yeah, as it is.
We
as
wouldn't
it
be up
should
here. It would be all about you.
As it should be. As about her. And again, we're going to remember that amazing spirit, that funny laugh, that 4'11" body, but that 8-foot tall, experience that we all got. So.
Janae Gagnier was born and raised in Houston, Texas, where she grew up as a beloved daughter to Mark Gagnier and Janetta Grover, and a cherished big sister and a tight-knit family. Her parents would later describe her as their brightest light, a woman who was so much more than the glamorous images that flooded her Instagram feed.
Yeah, baddies. Yeah. Oh.
Standing at just 4'11" tall, Janae possessed what her father called an 8-foot tall experience, a personality that was larger than life, a spirit that was infectious, and a heart that was genuinely loving to everyone she encountered. She was, in her mother's words, not just a daughter, but a best friend, someone who took care of the people around her with a sweetness that made her unforgettable. But to the world beyond her family and close friends, Janae was Miss Mercedes Moore, a name that would eventually attract 2.6 million followers on Instagram. She built her empire through stunning visuals that showcased her confidence, her beauty, and her bold fashion choices. Her content was a carefully curated blend of glamour and empowerment, the kind of post that would stop someone mid-scroll and make them hit that follow button without a second thought. Beyond Instagram, she was also active on OnlyFans, where she shared exclusive content with her fans. What made Janae particularly fascinating to her followers was her ability to maintain an air of mystery. Few people actually knew her real name. To most of the world, she was simply Miss Mercedes Moore. Her private nature was intentional. She understood that fame came with risks, and she tried to keep boundaries between her online persona and her real life. But despite her caution, despite her efforts to maintain privacy, there was something her family feared constantly: the attention her beauty attracted from admirers who might not have the best intentions.
And Thursday the 27th, I'll be in Columbus, Ohio at Nick's Cabaret, so I need all my fellas and my ladies to bring the money out if you want to see this fatty in person. Shout out to Baby Doll, Switch Marquee, and PCG for having me. See y'all soon.
Mark Gagnier, her father, would later reveal that he lived with a constant fear about the dangerous people his daughter's beauty might attract. It wasn't paranoia, it was the reality of being a beautiful woman with millions of eyes watching her every move online. By August of 2021, Janae's career was flourishing. Her engagement rates were strong, her content was resonating with audiences, and she had built the kind of following that brands dream of partnering with. She had caught the attention of major celebrities, including Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Drake. She was living proof that with the right combination of beauty, business savvy, and social media knowledge, you could build a real career in the digital age. But somewhere out there among her millions of followers, among the countless strangers who saw her face on their screens every day, there was someone whose admiration had twisted into something far more sinister. A man named Kevin Alexander Accordo, a 34-year-old from Florida, had become fixated on Janae in a way that would prove fatal. He didn't know her, she didn't know him, they had never met, never spoken, never even knew existed. But in his mind, something had convinced him that they had a connection, a delusion that would drive him to travel from Florida to Texas to somehow locate her supposedly secure apartment and to commit an act so violent that it would shock even seasoned law enforcement officers. The weekend started normally enough, but as the hours ticked by, something began to feel terribly wrong. By Sunday, August 29, 2021, the worry had transformed into panic. Mark Gagnier, unable to reach his daughter and unable to shake the feeling of dread that had settled over him, decided he needed to check on her in person. He drove to her apartment at the Cortland complex at 5200 Point West Circle in Richmond, Texas. This wasn't just any apartment building. It was a gated community designed specifically to provide residents with an extra layer of security. There were multiple entry points, security measures, and the kind of controlled access that should have made it difficult for unauthorized people to simply wander in.
I mean, your first insight when I went into my daughter's apartment and saw her there.
When Mark arrived at Janae's door, he knocked. No answer. He knocked again, harder this time, calling out his daughter's name. Still nothing. The silence on the other side of that door was deafening, suffocating. As a father, Mark knew in his gut that something terrible had happened. He kicked the door down, and what he found inside would forever change him. There, at the bottom of the stairs, was his daughter, Janae. She was gone. Her body showed signs of violence, the kind of brutality that no father should ever have to witness inflicted upon his child.
Attacked, they say, by a stalker.
How this guy found her, I don't know, but me walking in and finding my daughter and finding him committing suicide was just something that a parent should never bear.
As Mark processed what he was seeing, as the initial shock began to give way to a rage so profound it momentarily overwhelmed his grief, he heard something from upstairs. Mark's girlfriend, who had accompanied him, had already run up the stairs, and what she found there made her cry out hysterically.
Sadness took over real quick. My girlfriend, bless her little heart, at the time ran upstairs. Saw the guy still in there. Anger took over.
Upstairs, in one of the bedrooms, was Kevin Alexander Accordo. He was still alive, but barely. The process of taking his own life through multiple self-inflicted wounds. Mark would later describe the scene in chilling detail. The man was twitching, gargling, dying right there in front of them. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the scene was what Accordo had left behind on the walls of Janae's apartment. Scrawled in lipstick and pen were rambling messages, confessions, apologies, declarations of love, and accusations that painted a picture of a deeply delusional mind. The writings included phrases like, Janae led me to think she cared about me, but wore another man's ring. I should have stayed in Florida. I wish I'd never met her. And perhaps most tellingly, I was used for money. The writings suggested that Acorto believed he had some kind of connection with Janae, that she had led him on or used him in some way. But this was pure delusion. There was no relationship, no interaction or money exchanged. It was all in his head. A parasocial relationship taken to its most horrifying extreme. The Richmond Police Department responded to the scene, classifying it immediately as a murder-suicide. The welfare check that the family had requested had turned into one of the most disturbing crime scenes that the small town of Richmond had encountered in years. Officers found themselves dealing with not just a homicide, but a case that raised troubling questions about social media, stalking, and the vulnerabilities that come with online fame. The Fort Bend County medical examiner would later confirm what was already clear from the scene. Janae had died from strangulation combined with traumatic concussion, and her death was ruled a homicide. Acorto's death was officially attributed to multiple sharp force trauma, self-inflicted, a clear suicide. But while the cause of death was straightforward, everything else about this case was shrouded in mystery. How did Acorto, a man from Florida with no apparent connection to Janae, find her address? The apartment complex was gated with multiple security measures in place.
How did he get in? There were no signs of forced entry, and it's a gated complex. Somehow, though, he found a way in.
You have to kind of understand those apartments. You can enter 3 different ways: through the garage, through the back door, through the front door. So it makes it difficult to understand.
Investigators found no signs of forced entry, which meant that somehow Acorto had managed to get inside without breaking in.
People were asking about the relationship between her and the suspect. And at this time, we are doing some investigating on social media to determine if there is an exact cause.
As investigators began to dig into the case, one thing became abundantly clear. Kevin Alexander Acorto and Janae Gagnier had no known relationship whatsoever. They existed in completely different worlds, until Acorto decided to cross that boundary in the most violent way imaginable. The 34-year-old man from Florida had no prior criminal record beyond traffic violations, nothing that would have flogged him as a danger to anyone. Janae's sister London took to social media in the immediate aftermath of her sister's death, publicly stating that Acorto was a stalker from out of state who'd been stalking her. The family was convinced that Acorto's obsession with Janae stemmed entirely from her online presence. What psychological experts would later suggest is that Acorto likely suffered from a condition called erotomania, a delusional disorder where someone believes that another person, usually of higher social status, is in love with them. This delusion persists despite clear evidence to the contrary, and can sometimes lead to stalking behaviors. In the world of celebrity stalking, this pattern is unfortunately uncommon. The person develops an intense, one-sided relationship with someone they've never met, interpreting innocent social media posts or public appearances as secret messages directed specifically at them. The messages Acorto left on Janae's walls, particularly his claim that he was used for money, suggested that he may have had interactions with her content on platforms like OnlyFans, where fans pay for exclusive material. In his deluded state, he may have interpreted these transactions as something more personal, believing that the content creator was engaging with him specifically, rather than understanding the business nature of the platform. When reality inevitably clashed with his fantasy, perhaps when he saw her with someone else or when he realized that his financial contributions didn't translate into a real relationship, his delusion may have twisted into rage. The aftermath of Janae's death was a big blow to her friends and fans too.
And as many people in Houston knew her and loved her, she was sweet with them as she is with us. She took care of people. She's just a sweetheart. And my baby's gone from a tragic event that didn't have to happen. And it's just dangerous.
For Mark and Janetta, the tragedy was compounded by the insensitivity of how the news spread.
I know my daughter's dead, and all this other stuff going on social media about she was shot and robbed and all the other stuff. You should be ashamed of yourselves for letting out false information just to get the story and not coming to us and or waiting for the real story.
Right.
False rumors circulated wildly. Claims that Janae had been shot, that she'd been robbed, that she died of COVID or HIV. Each false report felt like another violation to the grieving family. They pleaded with the media and the public to let them grieve, to respect their daughter's memory, and to stop spreading misinformation for clicks and engagement.
We needed to grieve initially. Her dad found her. Can you imagine what that's like? So for him to have to see that and us process it, he and I to be able to talk about, what are the next steps, we would have appreciated at least that respect.
A GoFundMe was established to help cover funeral expenses, describing Janae as a beacon of light to so many. The response from her community was overwhelming. On September 4th, 2021, a private family memorial service was held in Rosenberg, Texas, followed by a public visitation where friends and fans came together to honor her memory.
Tonight, dozens of friends and family members of 33-year-old Houston area influencer Janae Gagne gathered at Terry Hershey Park to say goodbye. Police say the woman was murdered late last month by a man who somehow got into her apartment and strangled her.
At the vigil, balloons were released into the sky, each one carrying the grief and love of someone whose life Janae had touched. The impact of her death reached even the highest levels of entertainment.
This shocking murder is still very much a mystery to so many of the people who showed up to the vigil tonight. The social media influencer known online as Miss Mercedes Moore had millions of followers. They included celebrities such as Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Drake. In fact, Drake dedicated his new album to the model today.
Drake, one of the biggest artists in the world, dedicated his album Certified Lover Boy in part to Mercedes Moore, acknowledging the loss of a rising star in the entertainment community. Have you ever had a stalker experience, and how did you resolve it? Let me know in the comment section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.